Hello, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Tonight we are live from Bradford Royal Infirmary as the NHS celebrates its 75th anniversary. Tonight we'll be asking if the NHS is fit to cope with the challenges ahead.
I've been in the NHS since the 1990s, and the last 5 years have been the most challenging that the NHS has gone through.
We'll go behind the scenes at this hospital to meet the many people who work for our health service.
Today, I'm 17 weeks from surgery, and I will be forever grateful for the NHS.
And we'll be hearing your stories of when the NHS has been there for you.
And there's been a lot of cloud around today, but some blue sky. This is a shot from Shelley looking over towards the Emley Moor transmitter. Don't forget, I'll be back with a detailed forecast and that all-important weather forecast for Headingley tomorrow. That follows very shortly.
Hello, thank you for joining us. Today marks 75 years of the NHS. It's a huge milestone that comes with a warning that the service won't be here for its 100th year without investment and change. A senior West Yorkshire doctor has told Look North that the daily pressure on A&E is relentless. Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson reports.
Over recent years, we've gone through more pressure than I've ever experienced. I've been in the NHS since the 1990s, and the last 5 years have been the most challenging that the NHS has gone through.
At Bradford Royal Infirmary, Dr Sue King, a consultant in emergency medicine, says the daily pressures in A&E are relentless. The NHS has just emerged from one of the most challenging winters on record, but figures show that in May, around a third of A&E patients across our region were waiting longer than 4 hours to be dealt with.
At the moment, we have 79 patients in the department, with 20 having booked in the last hour. We've got 9 patients in our HDU resource area requiring quite a lot of medical and nursing resources. Hi, good morning. My name's Dr King. Good morning. How are you feeling now?
Some patients, like Melissa, who collapsed with chest pain, are genuine emergencies, while others attend with less serious ailments. All have to be dealt with within the space and resources available.
You'll never know when you'll hit you or you're going to lose your life, isn't it? So, scary moment, really.
So we're constantly looking at which patients are well enough to step down from resuscitation, which patients are well enough to step down from a cubicle, to sit in a chair, which patients are prioritised for wards, and it's a constant battle.
In January, amid record demand on urgent and emergency services, the government published a 2-year recovery plan, including a pledge to provide 5,000 extra beds. The pressures being felt here are not unique to this A&E or this hospital, with many parts of the wider NHS facing significant strain. And while the NHS has faced many ups and downs in its 75-year history, some of its biggest challenges have been faced in recent years.
You must stay at home.
The COVID-19 pandemic put the NHS under huge pressure and directly claimed nearly 20,000 lives in Yorkshire and the Humber alone. It also led to significant backlogs as operations were cancelled. In April, more than 500,000 patients were on waiting lists for non-urgent operations in our region's trusts, over 18,000 having waited over a year.
The NHS itself it's not quite on the critical list, but it's not far from it. Each of those people on the waiting list, they're getting worse as they wait with time, and those diseases are developing and they're progressing. And we've got to make sure that we can provide the care for them in a supportive and sustainable way, but do it in a way that actually isn't going to damage and burn out the workforce further.
The NHS is there for you.
The Prime Minister has made reducing the backlogs one of his 5 key pledges, and last week published a long-term workforce plan for the next 15 years to recruit and retain staff. But ongoing pressures and industrial disputes with NHS staff have not helped.
Hello, Harry. Morning. Mr Gordon, consultant urologist.
At Wharfdale Hospital, the creation of a new surgical hub away from the main hospital sites is helping the Leeds Trust reduce backlogs. A temporary theatre has been installed to immediately increase operating capacity, while wider plans to invest £10 million in the site move forward. The urology team no longer has any patients waiting longer than 78 weeks.
The real advantage for the patients is when we give them a date, they know they're going to get an operation. We hardly ever cancel patients here at Wharfdale because we have these protected beds away from the main sites.
As the NHS marks its 75th birthday, we can celebrate its past, knowing it faces challenges in the future. Jamie Coulson, BBC Look North.
We'll discuss some of those challenges with Chief Executive Mel Pickup shortly. But first, you're joining us in the command centre at Bradford Royal Infirmary. This is where all the comings and goings are monitored. It's an incredibly busy hospital, serving a population of over 500,000 people. There were 100,000 attendances at A&E at this hospital last year. 13,000 operations took place here. And this is my favourite one. 5,500 babies were born at this hospital last year as well. So you can see why this nerve centre, if you like, is needed at this hospital. It's manned 24/7, 365 days a year. Sarah Buckley is in charge of the command centre. Sarah, just tell us what we're seeing on the screens here and how it helps with the running of the hospital.
OK, so you're seeing a wall of real-time data analytics that is fed from the patient's electronic patient records across our organisation, and it allows us to make decisions around who goes into which bed at what time.
This was the first hospital to have a centre like this in Europe, wasn't it, 4 years ago? What difference does it make to how things run?
It's made sure that we've got patients in the right beds the majority of the time. The number of what traditionally were known as outliers has reduced, but most importantly, we no longer have our clipboard warriors that wander the wards, asking our clinical teams for information that's readily available to us now on screen, which means clinical teams deliver the care that our patients need.
Thank you, Sarah. I'll let you get back to work. Let's chat now to Chief Executive Mel Pickup. Mel, we can see technology at its best here, and actually it's been used all over the hospital, isn't it, these days?
Yes, absolutely, increasingly. So I think very much the future of the NHS will depend on how agile we are in adopting new technologies. So robotic surgery, who'd have thought when the NHS was conceived that we would be using robots routinely now in surgical procedures to allow patients to have the best opportunity for survival and great clinical outcomes.
Talking about the survival of the NHS, it does face challenges. Next week will be the biggest strike in the NHS history. Operations are likely to be cancelled. What reassurances can you give patients?
Unfortunately, we will have to curtail some of the activities that ordinarily we'd plan to do. And what that will mean is that certain patients who can, from a clinical point of view, wait longer will unfortunately have to. But our priority is keeping everybody safe and running the hospital in the way that we would really wish it to run.
Very briefly, long-term workforce plan that was announced last week. Is it too little too late at a point where staff vacancies are high and morale's really low?
It's not too late. It's just in time, I would say. And I'm really pleased to see that we have finally got a workforce plan that acknowledges and addresses the very challenges that you've just alluded to.
How do you convince doctors and nurses to come to Bradford rather than other regional centres?
We're serving a very unique population. There are fantastic opportunities to learn. It's all about the support that we can give to colleagues who choose to come here. We value everybody's contribution and we're one team.
Mel, thank you. So, as you can see in this centre, it's the cutting edge of technology, but of course the NHS had very humble beginnings. Kathy Killick has been trawling through the archive of what the NHS looked like 75 years ago here in Yorkshire.
This leaflet is coming through your letterbox one day soon.
The year is 1948, and after months of wrangling and debate,
I don't like it, not a little bit.
I think it's unfair.
The NHS was born. It was the vision of Nye Bevan, a socialist health minister who wanted medical treatment to be free. 12-year-old Sylvia Diggory was the service's first official patient. She retired to Skipton and spoke to Look North about her experiences in 1998.
A very exciting day. It quite lightened the life in the hospital. It was a very sudden appearance of the man, so everybody had to rush round. But yes, it was very interesting.
In its early days, it was thought the NHS would heal everybody and demand would wane. In fact, the service grew and grew, becoming a huge employer. In Yorkshire, the workforce stepped up, and in time, centres of excellence began to make their mark.
People were trapped between the burning roof and the burning floor. The victory party had become a major football disaster.
In the case of Pinderfields Hospital, it was the aftermath of the Bradford fire disaster that led to its world-class reputation for the treatment of burns.
The Bradford fire disasters acted as a catalyst, really, and the Royal Society of Medicine wanted to run a meeting in which we pulled as much knowledge as possible. From our experience, it's been important to deal with these sort of injuries early. I think the fact that we've operated early on them has been an enormous benefit.
This medical aid, the Bradford sling, was invented here to elevate burned hands and aid their healing. They're still used today.
Just 60 successful hand transplants have been carried out worldwide, and now this complex operation is coming to Leeds.
Another notable innovation that put our region on the medical map was the first hand transplant in the UK. It was performed in Leeds and gave patient Mark Cahill a touch of medical genius.
I can make my fingers move by looking at it.
Subsequent successes for the surgical team led by Professor Simon Kay led to Leeds becoming the place for hand transplants.
NHS England examined very closely the case for transplantation and, if so, where it should be done. And I think for them to come in now and say hand transplantation is worth doing, and for them to say Leeds is the best place to have it done, is an enormous endorsement of all the work we've done.
Many aspects of medicine have changed beyond recognition in the 75 years of the NHS. The study of the human genome has led to treatments unimaginable in 1948, and helping lead the way in this high-tech field is Sheffield Children's Hospital. Its labs were among the first to screen babies' blood for genetic diseases. The heel prick test, routine today, can detect 9 diseases and prompt the earliest possible treatment. And it's this shift towards prevention alongside cure that's starting to dominate medical thinking. It was in Bradford 18 years ago that medics launched a pioneering long-term study to follow 40,000 citizens for the Born in Bradford research programme.
We're going to unravel all the complex causes of ill health and try and pinpoint what can be done to improve the health of future generations.
Since then, the NHS has suffered, along with its patients, the COVID pandemic. Many of us clapped for our carers, but the service was on its knees. It may yet prove an historic reckoning for the idea of universal healthcare free at the point of use, set out all those years ago. Cathy Killick, BBC Look North.
Isn't it fascinating looking through the archives? Time now for a look at the news away from the NHS now across our region. A man has pleaded guilty to the murder of a man and a woman in Huddersfield. Stephen Harnett and Katie Hickton were found dead at a house in Dalton in May. 34-year-old Marcus Osborne, who appeared at Leeds Crown Court today, also pleaded guilty to the false imprisonment and rape of another woman. He'll be sentenced in the autumn. Children and parents faced more disruption today as teachers in England went on strike. Teachers from South Yorkshire gathered for a demo in Sheffield. They want an above-inflation pay rise and extra money for schools, so their pay increase does not come from schools' existing budgets. The government says schools are receiving additional funding as part of an extra £2 billion of investment. And Sheffield Wednesday's new manager has spoken for the first time today about his new appointment. The Owls announced yesterday that Cisco Munoz is the new man in charge of the team.
I think we need change, new era. I don't want to speak nothing about what happened 3 weeks ago. Now I'm start my era, we start our job, and we need to put the focus, and we need every fan with us. We are a massive club, we have a massive fans, and we need the positive things.
Back to the NHS now, and at the BRI, doctors and nurses carry out thousands of operations every year in this hospital. I was allowed to get my scrubs on and go behind the scenes with cameraman Rob. We went with the heart team. We went behind the scenes with patient Dawn on ward 22.
Morning, Dawn. I'm Dr. Lindsay. How are you doing?
Morning. Not too bad, thank you.
I'll just check the pulse in your wrist. This is where we'll be going in when we do the procedure, hopefully.
Okay.
Cardiologist Stephen Lindsay meets his first patient of the day. 64-year-old Dawn has a history of angina. A recent CT scan suggests she may have coronary artery disease. Today, the team at Bradford Royal Infirmary are going to photograph the area around the heart to see what's happening.
All probability, we would treat them by putting stents in, so stretching up the artery with a little balloon and then placing a sort of metal cage inside the artery to hold the artery open. Stents can be a very effective treatment, as opposed to a bypass operation where you're on an intensive care unit afterwards in hospital for a week. You can come in here this morning and be home for lunch with your coronary artery disease dealt with.
Dawn, how are you feeling?
Quite nervous now. It's your heart, isn't it? It's the main bit, really. So, just really scared.
Good luck, Dawn.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you're in very safe hands. It's time for Dawn to go to theatre. She'll be awake throughout the procedure. A small incision is made in the wrist to thread a catheter through an artery that leads to her heart.
So what we've seen there is that there is some narrowing in the right coronary artery. I'll crack on and deal with that one, and if that goes okay, then we'll turn our attention to the other one, okay?
Okay.
Angioplasty with stenting treats blockages to help improve the blood supply to the heart. Dr. Lindsay introduced it to this hospital 20 years ago. The team now treat around 9 patients every day. The majority are discharged within hours, freeing up beds and staff. Back in the 70s, this would have been major bypass surgery with a long recovery time. But now Dawn's having a stent fitted, and it's common procedure across many hospitals. Hopefully she'll be done and home later this afternoon.
I never felt a thing around the heart. It's amazing. I'm happy. It's over. I'm fixed. I'm going home before tea. Miraculous.
Big thank you to Dr. Lindsay and the cardiology team for letting us behind the scenes. It was fascinating. We're outside the main entrance of the BRI now with lots of staff who work here. Good evening. They do a fantastic job, and rightly so. They're in the mood to celebrate. Of course, it's not just doctors and nurses that make a difference. There's staff members behind the scenes, volunteers who quietly beaver around to make sure that a busy hospital like this runs really smoothly. We've been to meet 3 people from Chesterfield Royal Hospital to find out about the work that they do.
My name is Maria, and I am the training supervisor for domestic and catering services at the Chesterfield Royal Hospital.
Edges first, yes. I am very proud to be working for NHS. Why? Because I came from a different country. I never thought that I'm gonna be given the opportunity to not work only to work here, but to be given a big responsibility. If they're doing it wrong, let them know, please, yeah?
The ladies do a super job. Chesterfield saved my life. And yeah, they're all brilliant.
You enjoyed your dinner?
Lovely, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Tracy. I work at Chesterfield Royal Hospital as a patient assistant. Hi, how are you today? I give the patients hot drinks, cold drinks, the meals, and just keep monitored, how much they eat. How are you feeling today then, Craig?
Better than I did yesterday.
Oh, good. I love it because it's caring. There's a lot of caring in it. I've been doing this job 17 years, and I wouldn't swap it because I love my job.
So this is our state-of-the-art emergency department plant area. Everything from ventilation to switchgear that makes the department tick. I'm Henry, and I'm the electrical engineer for Chesterfield Royal Hospital. I get a great sense of job satisfaction from what I do. Chesterfield Royal's brilliant, massive family feeling, very close team where I work. Just smile as you walk past you. Several family members have been here. My sister's currently in labour. I've not heard too much about it this morning, but hopefully she's doing all right. It's very exciting.
Morning, Jackie. One of my childhood dream was I would like to work in the hospital. And that was my dream.
No matter what job you do at this place, it all feeds into that big picture.
I love my job, and I'll be here till I retire with a happy face.
Well, Henry, who we heard from there, is now a proud uncle. Baby George was born at Chesterfield Royal Hospital. Congratulations to all of you. I'm joined now by Professor John Wright. We've featured him many times over the years. He was also in one of our reports earlier on. Really good to see you, John.
Yeah, what a special day.
What a special day
Yeah.
indeed. John, you are a doctor, but you're also a public health expert. You were very much our go-to during in COVID. How challenging have the last few years been?
Well, amazing challenges, really. Firstly, the once-in-a-lifetime shock of the pandemic. But behind that is a slower and perhaps even greater challenge of an ageing population with more complex needs, and that's something that we have to really address going forward in the NHS.
Today we are celebrating, but we also have to acknowledge the waiting lists, the staff shortages, the strikes. Where do you see the NHS being in 20 years from now?
So I'm a great optimist, and I've worked for the NHS, trained in the NHS for over 40 years now. I've travelled around the world, seen different health systems. I think the NHS is something very, very special. It doesn't have all the insurance bureaucracy, it doesn't have all the profiteering from private companies, and it's something that we all own. And it's something that is fair to everybody. So I think it is something special, but we need to nurture it. And to do that, we need to get better at what we're doing. We need more resources for our ageing, more complex populations. We need to get better at how we use data so that we can start targeting support earlier on. Prevention is one of the key things going forward. We're too focused on a sickness service rather than a health service, and that's where we need to be in the future.
We just heard earlier that the NHS won't reach 100 years without change, without investment. What are the biggest points, do you think, that need addressing right now?
So I think, firstly, money. We've fallen behind other European countries in terms of resourcing our healthcare. Nobody wants to spend more money, but if we want to look after our parents and our grandparents, we need to do that. I think secondly, we need to look after our staff, and that goes with the money a little bit. We've had real-term pay cuts over the last few years for NHS staff, and we need to sort that out. And thirdly, it is about doing things better and focusing on upstream prevention so that we can get healthier lifestyles, healthier environments, and better targeting for early life support. One of the things we do here is the Born in Bradford study, and the lessons from that show that the diseases of adulthood, diabetes and heart disease and mental health, are starting from the day you're born.
John, thank you. The workforce plan that the government announced last week will address some of those issues that you raised there. Good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Lovely to see you, Amy.
Well, healthcare is everything, as John just said. Our health means everything to us, doesn't it? So we've been asking you when the NHS has been there for you. Take a look at this.
I suffered a life-threatening head injury. My life was saved by a brilliant observation of a sister at Dewsbury Hospital.
My 10-year-old daughter was diagnosed with a brain tumour, which turned out to be stage 3 cancer. She'll be 17 in September, and she's doing absolutely amazing. Can't thank the NHS enough.
He was born 9 weeks early, Prem. We were in and out of hospital quite a lot, so yeah, they were very, very helpful while we were there. So, and just give me support when I needed it.
Today, in 17 weeks from surgery, I will be forever grateful for the NHS.
I'm really appreciative of the NHS because they do very, very good for the host.
My mum worked for the NHS from ever since I can remember, and I know it needs help, but I still love it.
I think it's so important that we have somewhere that we can go to when we really are in our desperate times of need, and we are so lucky to have the NHS, and we really need to look after it.
Thank you from us to everyone in the NHS.
I owe them my life.
Thank you for being a good doctor.
I am very grateful.
Thank you for all your messages. Tim from Scarborough has been in touch. He says, I was born in 51 with a hole in my diaphragm. I survived the first ever successful operation to fix it. David in Dewsbury says, I was diagnosed with bladder cancer in lockdown. He says I was seen in 2 days, operated on the next week at Pinderfields Hospital. He says he's nearly 3 years cancer-free now, thanks to the brilliant NHS. Lots of messages from you have been coming in. Thank you for all of those. Time to get the forecast now with Paul. How's it looking for the rest of the week, Paul?
Well, it's warming up, certainly. By the time we get to Friday, we're looking at that magical 80 degrees Fahrenheit mark, if you like the hot, that is. And Bob's really impressed with his picture there. Look at that rainbow. That was yesterday evening, and a very nice garden too. And a beautiful, stunning picture of Lady Bower Reservoir. And as you can see, it's looking very healthy, despite the very dry weather we had through June. It's looking very nice indeed. If you've got any pictures you want to send to us, you can send them to the addresses there, Twitter, Instagram, and on the Weather Watcher website. So it's the first day of the Ashes Test match at Headingley tomorrow. The odd shower is possible, otherwise it's going to be fine, with the best day coming on Friday before thunderstorms break out on Saturday. But certainly temperatures are on the up. Tomorrow's forecast, variable cloud like today, quite a bit of cloud at times. There will be some sunshine, just the odd shower, but temporarily we'll see the air coming up from France, a very warm direction, but this cold front will basically destabilise things, and you can see those thunderstorms breaking out as we head through Saturday. At the moment, Sunday is not looking too bad, mostly dry with some sunshine. Now you can see that storm that swept through the Low Countries, a 90-mile-an-hour gust in Amsterdam today, but we've missed all that. We've just been in a very bland setup with variable cloud and some sunshine, but that cloud has tended to melt away in the last hour or two, so we are looking at a good deal of sunshine. The focus of any showers again through parts of South Yorkshire, but very hit and miss. I think most of us will be dry, and we're looking at overnight temperatures close to 8 or 9 degrees. So tomorrow's high water times, nice day along the coast tomorrow, Filey 7:01, Bridlington at 7:10. So there'll be some sunshine around tomorrow. The cloud, like today, will build. It may well just help develop 1 or 2 showers, but if you catch one, it will move through fairly quickly. And I think, just like today, the emphasis is on a good deal of dry weather. Slightly warmer, highs of around 21 Celsius, which is very close to average for this time of the year, with a moderate southwest wind. OK, that all-important further outlook. Well, Friday does look a cracker. Some of the sunshine will be hazy at times, some medium and high-level cloud around at times, but temperatures up to 26, 27 degrees. That's 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but quite a high risk of some thunderstorms breaking out during Saturday. A bit of a respite Sunday. Next week, actually, looks set to be very unsettled. Amy, back to you in Bradford.
Paul, thank you. Well, tonight we've acknowledged the challenges that the NHS faces, but it's always described, isn't it, as the jewel in the nation's crown. It's something that needs to be protected. So thank you to the BRI for allowing us to come here. Happy birthday, NHS!